It's John Bowden with Rock History Music and our special guest, Nick Collins, son of Phil Collins, Trev Lukather, his dad, Steve Lukather of Toto, and they formed their own band, along with Steve Majora on keys and Emmett Stang on lead vocals, and these guys are amazing. Trev and Nick told me something that really stuck with me. It was something that Steve Majora, their keyboardist, said. That this band is such in sync with each other, going from their friendship to where they're going musically, that they almost feel like a 70s band who died in a plane crash and got reincarnated to today. They touch the 70s in their sound. There's pop, there's rock. It's very melodic. And man, these guys can kick ass. Part 2 of our interview with Nick Collins and Trev Lukather on Rock History Music.
Emmett, so Madison, our wedding song was In Your Eyes, Peter Gabriel. And it's one of the best songs of all time, obviously. But Emmett went viral doing a beautiful acoustic cover of it. And by just my Instagram feed, he popped up. And I was just like, who is this guy? It was just insane. And Madison was like, who's that? I followed him. And he followed me right back. And then he was like DMing me, loving all my guitar videos. And I was obviously loving all of his covers and how great of a vocalist he was. And then we exchanged numbers and he was texting and everything. I said, I'm just going to call this guy, man. So I call him and we were on the phone for it's like the first hang with Nick. It's like hours hang, so easy, so chill. Just like, it's like you've been friends for a long time, man. And I knew, oh man, this guy's also super cool too, and like super spiritual, super not lead singer. He's a genius piano player. He's a musician, man. He plays all the instruments. So he's a little less lead singer guy, where it's just all I do is sing, and he's very much a band guy. So
yeah, he's in tune with what everybody's doing. I can have conversations for hours about drummers with them. It's great. You know what I mean? It's yesterday, as we were miking up the kit, and it's just we're talking about snare drums and what snares Bonham used and stuff like that. And it's, he's part of the band,
Oh yeah.
No lead singer syndrome.
Zero.
He's my assistant drum tech as well. You know what I mean? He helps me out. It's unheard of.
I interviewed Rick Emmett of Triumph, the Canadian band Triumph, so many times through the years. It started when I was programming jazz music. I left rock for a while, programmed jazz. And the last time I talked to him, it was for 2.5 hours. No, I will not keep you that long. But he told me, he says, in the beginning of Triumph, there was just something that even if we weren't playing together, we'd be talking to each other. We'd be on the phone. And it just happened to be that we gelled musically, which is what I'm hearing here,
Yeah. No, the chemistry is killer, man.
Which was cool because in a lot of band contexts, it's you're friends and then it's yeah, you want to form a band. With us, it was kind of the opposite. It was music was first because Trev knew us. So I didn't know Em, didn't know Steve, didn't know how they were as people, and we wrote 3 songs without ever being in the same room and meeting each other face to face. It was via Zoom calls, the first 3 songs we wrote for the album. So then I remember coming fly out to LA and God, I hope these guys are actually cool and are nice people.
Yeah.
And dude, it was as soon as we showed up, it was I feel we all felt like we'd done it before. We felt like we'd all
hung out. Yeah. It was funny. It was so easy, the vibe, that it was Steve Majora, the classic line of Steve Majora is hey man, I'm pretty convinced that we all were a band in the 70s and died in a plane crash and we we're reincarnated to do this again. I was well, let's hope it doesn't end the same, man, But it was just that instant kind of spiritual connection. It was easy. It wasn't awkward in the least bit. And I knew that, knowing everyone separately, I knew that once we all got in the same room, that Nick and Em and Steve and everyone was going to connect so well. I had no worry about it. But obviously, I understand you being everybody. Yeah, I understand you. Goes. But luckily it turned out great, man. We called it band camp. It was 2 weeks of content, did the video, and that's what we're doing again right now. It's another band camp. We're together for we're doing another music video, and we're doing photo shoots. We're doing just having to do the TikTok, Instagram content stuff, and fitting all this stuff in the next, week and a half. And, but it's always great because it's like whenever we get together, it's like, yes, because the vibe, it's like, we just, the most important thing, because that's what 95% of the gig is the hang, It's like 5% you're on stage, but it's so important that the hang's good, man.
By the way, what advice did each one of your dads give you? What was the best advice was there something that stands out, or was it just a body of stuff?
I'm trying to think. I mean, like, my dad's always been really good about like taking a back seat to let me find my own way, my own voice, whatever, like my own approach to music. I always say, like, a lot of parents who, like that do something, they want their kids to do the same thing. And it sometimes get kind of, pushed down somebody's throat, and it makes you a bit repulsed by it. And you want to push it away because your parents like, you got to go do this. And my dad was really cool about like letting me do my own thing. I think the biggest thing for him that I learned is like, and it's like staying true to what you want to be and who you are as an artist, not trying to replicate and be somebody else. Because my dad was a really unique drummer and a really unique singer. And it was always like, don't try to be and copy somebody else. Like, because if you're doing what you're doing, you got to back it. And that's the most important part, because if you don't even back what you're doing, then like, why is anybody else going to like it? So I think that was kind of one of those things, but it's never, we have our times where I, ask him for the advice, but a lot of the time he's just like, he's like, yeah, you're doing good, man. Like, go for it. And he's a supportive guy. But he lets me kind of do my thing, which I've enjoyed, especially like as a teenager, where I was kind of just finding my way and like what I was into, not just doing what dad was doing.
And I think that what's so cool about Nick too is that obviously you did the Genesis Phil Collins tour, so he played everything note for for his pop. But also hearing Nick as a drummer separate, being in a band with him, is he's very different from Phil. Very, very different, unique. Nick himself, his approach is completely different, even though being around your pop, like, and learning all the tunes, like, you have your thing, you develop your own style. And we relate to that too. I mean, there's always the influence that's there, and I guess the best advice my pop gave me is like, hey, learn rhythm first and write music. He's like, it's all about songwriting. Before you try to get flashy and play solos, focus on your rhythm. He says, my career was really based on rhythm, being a session guy and all that stuff. And it's so important to be in pocket, especially with being in a band with this guy. I better have pocket, So I'm glad that I listened to Pop's advice when I was young, I'm still young, but I'm just saying really young. But yeah, man, I think that would be the best advice Pop gave me, growing, like getting into guitar. He's focusing on the tunes.
I asked Steve Hackett this the other day. He's another guy I've interviewed like a million times. I've never talked to your dad, Nick, but and tell me, shut up, you crazy old bastard, if you want. How's your dad doing?
He's good, man. He's doing good. He's retired now. He's done. Unless for some reason he gets the itch to go back out again, which happened. So never say never, but I don't think so. I think he's good. He's satisfied with what we did. I mean, honestly, the way we were able to leave off, I mean, I'm very lucky I got to tour with him on his solo tour, and then doing the last, I think we did maybe just under or about 50 shows with Genesis, which I thought, it could have been longer. COVID really did kind of mess up our plans, because I think without COVID, we would have done like 3 years. Even like the way the tours were planned, you could see we only really did East Coast of the US. Like, there was going to be another one for the, but I think by the time it was done, it was like, let's do what we got to do and enjoy it and it not become a chore. And I think for him to leave off on that high with the 3 shows at the O2, he sounded great, band sounded great, and he can kind of, take a step back and relax and not have to worry about the pressure anymore. So yeah, man, he's doing good.
Luke, your dad, he's always one of the funniest interviews I ever do, because I mean, your dad doesn't suffer fools, and he's great and he's fun. He's got a dark sense of humor. He's just one of those guys. But I look at your dad as being one of those guys that, it's like me. Someone asked me the other day, you're going to retire? I'm going, I'm 60. I'm going to be 64 in a week, but I like what I do. So your dad seems to dig what he's doing. You think he'll ever retire?
Yeah, I mean, nah, man. I think Pop's gonna be, doing it till he can't do it any longer. I mean, but I even feel I'm sure he'll, even if he's like, when he's 90 and he's like, I can't even stand for too long, he'll sit down and play. I don't see him retiring. He can maybe say that, oh man, I'm gonna retire. What, he's so in love with playing and loves playing, like just shows and touring, and he's such a road dog that I just don't see him literally just saying, I'm good. I'm just sit around and not, he's gonna, even if he tries 2 months later, he's like, all right, okay, that's enough. Let's go tour. Let's go do something. So, my answer is absolutely not. I don't see him retiring. I think he'll be playing and giving what the fans what they want until he can't.
You were mentioning that Unwanted probably has more legs as a single too in the future, but Something Wrong I really enjoyed as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think because Unwanted, we got number one on the Power Hour on the Access TV show, the Rock Countdowns, fan voted. So we were this unsigned band that kind of like, they gave us a chance to be debuted. And then all of a sudden, the first week was 7, next week was 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 2. And then we got the number one spot on the season finale. So that was the first time that Unwanted was really put on a platform for people that don't know us to vote for it. And so when we saw people connect to it, we're like, oh, well, let's see if we got some radio love on this, or some, build it up to getting some Spotify playlist love, and then letting it have some more legs, because every time we've actually been able to give it a shot, people are really connecting. So Something Wrong, I mean, that core, like when we did it.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a reason why we wanted that to be the next one.
Yeah.
And I think for a band, it's always tricky when you just have one song out. Getting another one at least gives the fans like something else to go listen to afterwards. But once we did that, we're like, okay, like now let's, play our cards correctly for the next one. And, whether it's going to be 1, 2, 3 more singles for an album, we don't know. It's just like, we wanted to put that out there and get something else out, especially since we knew we were going to just be finishing the record and we're going to be playing another show. We were like, let's put something out in that meantime until we can get back. And, now we're playing shows again and back active in a way that, to the public that isn't just like in the studio.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Something Wrong is a personal favorite, for me, that was when we were kind of really, we'd already done like 3, 4 tunes or something. And it was like, now it's like, we were kind of really figuring out what we kind of do as a band. And the cool thing that I really like about the band is, and kind of going back to the first question you asked of like how, the hard rock and pop thing is like, we never ever sat down and had a conversation as to what kind of band we're going to be.
Funny enough, we had the conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
Personal.
It was just like Trev did this and I did that, and then Steve and Evan, and it's just like that's what the four of us sound like. There was never like we're gonna try and do this hard rock pop thing, and it was just like
because I think based on my last band, he was like, well, okay, so you had that style, like what with our band, like what was the approach there? And it was like my approach was listening to Nick's playing and outside his Better Strangers, or like just like getting involved, like okay, he's and I'm a rock guy. I call myself it's like the rock tart. It's like Pop Tart, but like I'm a rock guy. So it's like, I was like, love big chorus, love poppy hooks, but I'm a riff guy. And when I've worked with like Hailstorm Dorothy, Andrew Hagar, all these guys, like I get it's rock stuff. So that's my thing. And and even with my dad's solo stuff, he always calls me, do you have a riff for me, man? Like, can I get a riff? So it's like, the riff thing is just because I just love the, I guess, heavy funk rock, Rage Against the Machine, Audio Slave, but then Zeppelin and, all these killer, I just love guitar riffs, but also riffs that can be in a pop sense too, because I love songs, man, so it's like, how do you make this cool riff into a song? But Nick bringing his thing, Steve really brings the poppiness to the tunes with the keys. He really has a great sense of pop melodies with his parts. I mean, Something Wrong, for instance, he created the melody for the chorus with his keys, and then Emmett's top line writing. So when we were talking about it, I was like, well, the sound developed by all of us just putting our flavor into one little thing. And then it's like, well, this is unique. And it just kind of went from there.
I hear so many different bands in here because, I mean, there's always this thing. I love that power pop thing, but being my age, I also miss that sound or it being done well, or else, or tipping your hat and then moving on, which is what I feel with you guys are doing. Because I hear Zeppelin, I hear Journey, I hear Toto, I hear everything in this, especially the way Emmett sings, because he's so powerful. And then Steve's there. By the way, Nick, do you sing?
Yes, he does.
I do recreationally, you know what I mean? Like, no, not really. Like, I do, but I mean, it's, not like these guys, dude. Like Trev and Steve, that's like a, power backing vocal section, So like, I just want to play the drums, man. But there will be the time. It's just, honestly, it's been just, if we were going on the road, then it's like, all right, I'll do it.
He's selling himself short, man. We did like an acoustic idea thing, and he's saying harmony. It was perfect, So he's not giving himself enough credit, but eventually, but I get it because our timing, since we're such short, this is short windows for now. We haven't dived into like vocal. All right, Nick, you're gonna see this part, and because we're all just wanting to make sure that the song and the arrangement and that we are playing it perfectly. And then, we have 3-part harmonies with Steve, Emmett, and I. And then, of course, we live in 2024. We all little background vocals on the tracks too. So it sounds like a live version of our record, man.
This sounds like Trev, you're Peter Gabriel, and Nick, you're your dad. And I'm asking Peter Gabriel if he had long white blonde hair. Hey, Phil, do you sing? And it's like early 70s. And Phil's going, well, I sing a little bit. And I knew your dad sang back then, even though he just, he didn't sing a lot of lead vocals till Peter left, where all of a sudden, so I'm going to be watching you, Nick.
Yeah.
You never know. By the way, Behind the Lines, I bought a box set of Genesis way back when Chase was 7, I think. And I played Behind the Lines. He heard that. And he was just doing drum band at that point, rock band or something. But he heard Behind the Lines. And I love Duke. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. And he like turns around and he went, what is that? I want to learn that. I like that. He says, I love the way the drums come in on that. And it's strange. And I just heard you on Drumeo, because, I've obviously saw clips as well of you playing with the band. What was the song from Genesis that stood out for you? That when was there a song when you were young? What was the?
I mean, different because when I was a kid, it was mainly my dad's stuff. My dad wasn't in Genesis when I was born. Like he'd left in 92, 93. So by the time I was born, he was like about to start his final farewell tour, solo tour. So I grew up on that, but obviously I knew the Genesis hits, Invisible Touch, Land of Confusion, songs like that. It wasn't until I started getting older, more into drums, where I started gravitating more towards the prog stuff. And now I am a prog guy. Like that's what I love and listen to. And I think going on tour with Genesis, like a Cinema Show and Behind the Lines, which those two were probably the ones that I really wanted to play. I'm like, whatever we're doing, like we're doing these 2 parts. Like I know I don't have much of a say in the set list, but like you got to do me a favor, and these 2 songs are going to be in it. There was a bunch of others that I had to learn that like, oh, I wish we could have played, but didn't make it to rehearsals or didn't make it to the show. But no, it was such a great time, to be able to play music that I've grown up with, where some of the songs I knew like the back of my hand, and then some songs I had to learn entirely, like a lot of the old prog stuff, like which I wasn't really familiar with. So it was a great time and a really period of my life that I'll cherish forever, really.
Trev, what about you and Toto? There must be a song sometimes, and I told this to your dad the first time I interviewed him years ago. I went, where do you get these? What's in your tickle trunk, buddy? Where do you got? Is there something that your dad's done where you still to this day you listen to and you go, holy snapping turtles? Yes, I said snapping turtles.
I was catching on to that bit. I love it though. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, man. I dove deep into Toto kind of later on as well. I mean, it's I love the deep tracks. It's funny, like 1,000 years, some random ones, man, that I just,
The
so when
seventh
it comes to,
one, yes.
yeah. So when it came to, even this new set list that's coming up for the year, like Dad was throwing around some ideas. I said, listen, man, I have a few I have to throw out there, man, to you. Like, like, because I'm also a fan of the band and the records and some that I never hear you do live. Like, you try that. Can you try this? Can you try that? Can you try that? And I'm not going to give it away. Or maybe there is a set list that's out now because they know they did a show in Hawaii. But they have some tunes in the set that they should be playing that they haven't played.
Outside of Toto or Genesis, each one of you guys, give me a few albums that changed your life. Because obviously those bands would be there as well, but outside of those bands.
For me, Houses of the Holy, Lateralis by Tool, Siamese Dream, Smashing Pumpkins. I mean, I grew up on, Chili Peppers and Foo Fighters, Californication, and by Foo Fighters. I mean, there's so many, man. There's like I just go down like a laundry list. Like it's always like evolving. Like there's always like a new band that all of a sudden I get into, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I've been missing out on those. But just off the top of my head, those are a few. White Pony, Deftones, like
Oh yeah.
Nick, what's the one you said with the Foo Fighters? Could you cut out there for a second?
Color and the Shape. That's just classic. You know what I mean? I mean, I also really love There Is Nothing Left to Lose, the one afterwards. I love the songs, but Color and the Shape is classic. Everlong, Monkey Wrench, My Hero, like that's timeless.
Yeah, I mean, Peter Gabriel's So record, I think, is one of like the best albums. And then it's funny. It's the first Audio Slave album to me. It was one of like, I mean, I know it's like not Soundgarden and not Rage, but that first album I can listen to nonstop, man, and just front to back, face melting. And Morning View, Incubus was a big one for me too. Love the Journey Escape record. And I mean, these, if we're not naming the Dad's bands, but now he's my pop-in-law, so that's kind of, I don't know if that's also like
No, fair game. Yeah, that's right.
No,
He is.
okay, good.
I forgot. Of course he is. Yes.
But yeah, I mean those records that are off the bat in my mind, that really just those are like the most influential outside of the Genetics.
Oh, by the way, when I was doing jazz, Daryl Sturmer, of course, was doing a lot of jazz stuff. So one day, in an interview, I mentioned that my daughter was autistic. Trev, who I was talking about before, when we emailed. And anyway, out of nowhere, his wife from Milwaukee calls me, Michaela, and she says, I heard you have an autistic child. Well, I know a certain person, and she go, and I'm doing the afternoon drive show, right? And I hadn't been in radio live for a while. I'm just doing this, and we're talking, and I'm going, I don't think anyone's done something so nice to me before. I'm going, it's so nice. And then when your dad was touring back then, this would have been 2003, I think. Out of nowhere, Daryl phones me and he says, "Hey, do you want to go see Phil?" I said, "Yeah, but isn't Phil in Toronto at night?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'm in Calgary, so I wouldn't have the time to get there." He was so sweet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Daryl's the man. Daryl is a sweetheart of a guy, and Daryl, like I've known him. I mean, he's been with my dad, whether it be Genesis or him, since '78, I think. And like I got to play on the whole PC tour with him, and then Genesis, he was also in it. And Daryl's the guy who knows the material better than the band knows the material better than anybody. Like when there's something wrong, you look at Daryl and it's like, what are we doing? Like, where are we going? So I mean, unbelievable musician, but a really great dude. And, I like so important to me as like growing up and playing music, like, to be able to play with guys like him and Lee Sklar and Brad Cole, like, the list goes on. I've been very lucky to play with those guys.
Anything you guys want to, like I said, I'm sure we'll talk again. Anything you want for this first interview you want to include that I have not asked you? There's probably stuff, but can you think of anything?
No, just basically, for everyone to go check out The Effect in our socials at The Effect Band, and then The Effect Official for TikTok and Twitter, and just to stream Unwanted, watch our music video, and share it, spread the word, build the buzz. That's all we can ask, And we thank you so much, John, for this as well, man, and having our backs. Thank you so much, bro. Great seeing you, man.
Yeah, nice seeing you again, and Nick, nice meeting you, man.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks for having us, man.
Take care,
You're
guys.
the man, John. Much love.
Now that was a fun interview. I want to thank Nick and Trev for joining us on Rock History Music. Remember, all things concerning The Effect, their band, is in the description. You can join their TikTok, their Instagram, their Facebook page. Don't miss a thing. And if you want to join our newsletter, there's a link in the description where you'll get updates on all our videos, because YouTube doesn't always let you know that we have a new video. This is the easiest way to do it. If you want to make a donation to the channel, there's a link to PayPal. You can join our Patreon, get early access to our videos. But subscribe to our channel, comment on our videos, share them on social media, and like them as well. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music. Take care of yourself.